Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be diving in and reviewing some live proposals on Upwork. If you don't know who I am, my name is Nico Hessel. I'm the founder of Social Sync Marketing and Upwork Outbound, and I've generated about $75,000 in revenue in the last 8 months using Upwork. And on top of that, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars hiring employees on Upwork, so I feel fairly confident in saying that I know what makes a good proposal a good proposal. And so recently I posted a job looking for an accountant on Upwork, and I got about 50 proposals in the first 48 hours. And so in today's video, we're gonna break a few of those down. We're gonna review them, go over the good, the bad, the ugly, and then we're gonna rewrite them and correct them. And so without further ado, let's dive in. So like I mentioned, when I posted the job on Upwork looking for an accountant and a bookkeeper, I got over 50 proposals submitted to the job. And so the vast majority of them were terrible, but this one in particular made just about every mistake that you could make. And many of them were really common mistakes I see many other people making when submitting proposals on Upwork. So I figured I would dissect his proposal. We can go through it, analyze it, and then I will rewrite it for you guys so you can see how that looks. So diving in here, first and foremost, I'm going to blur out this profile picture to allow him to stay anonymous. And just so you know, I'm not making fun of his proposal in any way. Hopefully, if he sees this, he can use these tips to improve his proposals and make more money on Upwork. And so I'll just have that caveat in there. But diving in, I am going to blur out his profile picture, but just make sure you have a good profile picture. There's so many that are terrible on Upwork. Just make sure you have a plain background. You're either wearing a collared shirt or a plain t-shirt, and you just look nice, presentable, and professional. That's something super easy that you can do that a lot of people, shockingly enough, don't actually do. And then to start his proposal, he starts with "Dear Sir / Madam." That's super, super strange. Obviously he did not take the time to find my first name, which he could have done. It's in my job history section. But he chose to start with "Dear Sir / Madam." So if you're not going to find the job poster's first name, or you maybe can't, it doesn't show up there, at the very least, start with "Hey" or "Hello." Saying "Dear Sir / Madam," it sounds funny and it doesn't. It's not very smooth. It doesn't roll off your tongue. It's a very odd way to start. Then the first sentence says, "In response to your request for a proposal, I would like to make a submission to be considered for this project." So that first sentence says absolutely nothing. We have no idea, there's no context in there. And, obviously he'd like to make a submission to be considered for the project because I'm reading his proposal right now. And so this sentence is pretty terrible. Then he says, "As you can see, I believe I have many of the skills you need to be need for successful completion of this project. I have," and then he goes into a bullet point list. And so, that's not terrible. I would definitely clean up the language a lot. But really the big things here is there's zero personalization anywhere in the first paragraph. And the formatting just generally of this entire proposal is terrible, right? It's very bunched together. It looks like there's a lot of information. It looks like it's intimidating when you look at it. There's not a whole lot of white space. So just off the bat, the formatting, just formatting it correctly would be a huge improvement. Then we'll dive in. So he says, "I have a CPA license." That's good. You want that info in there. "I consulted with many small businesses and started and run businesses of my own. I'm very familiar with the challenges that you face." So this is okay. I mean, I don't really care that he's started and run businesses of his own, so you can definitely get rid of that. But consulting with lots of small businesses is an okay thing to add. In this context, it's a little strange because I didn't mention anywhere in the job post that I was a small business, but it is an okay thing to have in there. Then he says, "Multiple years of accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, and tax experience at various levels within an organization, including as CFO and controller." That's good. The language needs to be cleaned up. There's grammatical mistakes in here. But overall, this is the right information to have because that does make him fairly unique that he's been a CFO and a controller. And he's got a bunch of different years of experience in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, and tax. One quick thing is I would definitely mention how many. So you could say I have over 10 years of experience or 7+ years, whatever. Just get more specific because multiple years could mean 1.5 years. It could mean 38 years, right? So it's pretty vague. Then he says accounts receivable and collection/management of accounts. That's okay. Then he says real estate experience, held Ohio real estate license, have worked with owners, landlords, and developers, done lots of books cleanup, especially with high volume closings, house flipping, and vacation rental. So that's terrible. Like there's a lot of grammatical errors in there, as well as I mentioned nowhere in my job post that I'm in real estate or I need someone in real estate, or I don't mention anything about real estate. And so now it becomes blaringly obvious that he's just copying and pasting this entire thing into every job that he submits a proposal for, because there's been zero personalization up to this point. And now we're starting to see things that are clearly, they have nothing to do. They're completely irrelevant with the job that we've posted. And so saying that you have a lot of real estate experience and that you've done house flipping and vacation rentals, is completely irrelevant. And now it's very obvious that you're just, copying, pasting this into every job. So definitely I would delete that. I'm not going to read through all of these because you guys get the idea. He's just listing his qualifications. But the biggest thing is that it's formatted awfully. There's no white space. It's very intimidating. There's a lot of grammatical errors. You can see oftentimes he doesn't start his bullet points with a capital letter. That's simple stuff, guys. It's so easy. And so doing those simple stuff, none of it is personalized at all. And he mentions other industries that make it very obvious that it's not personalized and that he's just using this proposal for everyone. So those are the big things. And then I'll skip to the end here. I guess another quick thing I would mention is that it kind of goes under formatting, but some of these bullet points are very short, like this one, and some of them have 4 or 3 or 4 sentences in them or lines in them. And so, if you're going to use a bullet pointed list, make them short, concise, easy to read bullet points that give a lot of information. So CPA license, retired in 2018. That's great. That gives context, it gives information, and it's super short, easy to read. So that's what we're going for. We don't want to have these long bullet points that have, 2 or 3, even this one has 3 sentences in it. And so, it makes it look weird. Plus, it's just not the way we want to present. Skipping to the end here, he says, my approach would involve the following steps. Determine the parameters of the project and prioritize the most important aspects to address first. Again, that's a given. That doesn't really tell us anything. Obviously, if I hire you, I would assume that you're going to determine the parameters of the project, or that I would have already determined them. And so it doesn't really give us very much information. I can understand kind of what he means here. He wants to do it seems like he wants to do an audit kind of and make sure that the priorities are correct. Maybe, but get more specific with this, because this sentence is super general, and it's the person reading the proposal shouldn't have to work to figure out what you mean. It should be just very, very clear, very obvious what you mean. Then he says, gather all appropriate information needed to efficiently and successfully address your needs. Again, that's pretty obvious, doesn't need to be in there. Then he says, in order to protect documents, we may need to consider using Google or a similar program where the documents can be shared securely. In terms of billing rate, I would like to submit my services to be paid at $30 an hour for the project. Please let me know if I can be of service to you. Obviously, the $30 an hour doesn't need to be in there because it's up top and he submits that with his proposal. So that doesn't need to be in there. That can be deleted. I actually kind of like this, the content of this section, this sentence. Obviously, it needs to be revised. It doesn't sound very good, but the content itself is not too bad. So he's just saying in order to protect documents, we might need to consider using a software so that your documents, don't get leaked and everything's secure. That's good to add in because that's probably a super common concern of many of his leads, of his prospects. So I kind of like that he has that in there. But the billing, that can be deleted. And then his call to action is, please let me know if I can be of service to you. That can definitely be deleted. You need a much better call to action than that. I would suggest something like, hey, are you free this Friday for 15 minutes? Or I'd love to learn more about your project. Is there a time next week that you can hop on a quick call? Or something like that, right? A little more specific. I'm going to go ahead and blur his name out here, but it just says thanks, comma, and then his name. And then lastly, he's attached his resume here. That's not a good or a bad thing. I think it's fine with it. I think it's fine. If you're going to do it, though, I would highly encourage you to reference it in your proposal. And so the last line can say, if you want more information, I've attached my resume. Like that's fine. That doesn't hurt you at all. And so now I'm going to copy and paste this into Notion, and I'm going to rewrite it for you guys so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so you can see here that I've rewrote it. And so just, first and foremost, the formatting of this proposal looks way better, looks way cleaner than his. And so, dear Nico, we have one paragraph, then we have a short sentence, 6 bullet points, then 2 or 3 really short paragraphs that are 1 to 2 to 3 sentences, and then a signature. So like, it's much less intimidating, it's easy to read, and it just looks a lot more professional. So I'll just run through this here. We start with Dear Nico, personalize. I've read your proposal and I'm confident I can help you organize your accounts payable and accounts receivable using the Google software that you requested. I have more than 7 years of experience in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, and tax law at various positions, including CFO and controller. So right off the bat, the first sentence is super, super personalized. It talks exactly about what I had requested in my job post. So immediately I know that, he took the time to go find my first name and he read the entire job post. And so that is a pretty good start. The second sentence says it addresses how many years of experience he has. And this at the end makes him unique, saying that he's had experience doing all these things while he was CFO and controller. Like, I'm guessing that makes him a lot different than most other bookkeepers and accountants that have applied to this job. So that's great. Then we shrunk his very long bullet point list into 6 bullet points. So he says, I have the following credentials: a CPA license, retired in 2018, experience working with QuickBooks, Sage, Peachtree, ADP, Concur, and more. That's going to be important because likely if you get hired as a freelancer or as an outside contractor or an agency, people are going to want you to use the software that they are already using. And so saying that you have experience in many different softwares does provide a lot of value to your proposal. Then we say experience working with tax programs such as ATX, Drake, and more. That's the same exact idea as the second line. Experience updating policies, procedures, and SOX. Experience with related entities and intercompany transactions. The one thing I would say here is I'm not super familiar with tax language. And so if this is a phrase that really only bookkeepers would know, then I would take it out. And so I'm not really sure what he means when he says experience with related entities. But if that is a phrase that only bookkeepers would know, then I would take it out, because if it's the CFO or COO or whoever hiring you, or even just a hiring manager, then who's like reading this proposal, then they might not know what that means, and it's just going to confuse them. So just a quick note there. And then lastly, we say college level teaching and bookkeeping. College level teaching experience. We could say like in accounting, comma, including curriculum design for courses. So that makes him really unique. I'm guessing almost nobody else has college level teaching experience in teaching bookkeeping or accounting or whatever. We would want to clean this language up a little bit. It doesn't sound super smooth, but you get the idea. And so saying a few things that make him really unique, providing a lot of social proof and experience with different softwares, and yeah. Then we go into this paragraph, which says, if hired, I would do an in-depth audit of your accounts receivable and accounts payable, get a scope of the project and priorities, and get a scope of the project and priorities. This would take 7 to 10 days. And once it is complete, I would begin work with the most urgent tasks. Right. And so we're just trying to give them an idea as to our process, how we work, and how we're thinking, and a time frame. And so again, I just made this up because I don't know what his process or anyone's process is for this, but you get the idea. Then we say, in order to protect documents, we may need to consider using Google Documents or a similar program to ensure the documents can be shared securely. Again, we're addressing that same pain point that he did at the end. We just cleaned up the language a little bit. Then we say, I'd love to hear more about your company and your project. Is there a time later this week that you would be free for a 10-minute call? Thanks, Tom M. And so you can see overall, there is it's formatted correctly, so it's much easier to read. It's much less intimidating, and overall it just looks a lot better, right? And so at first glance, this is far better than the first one, and it includes lots of details. It talks about his experience. It talks about the different software he uses, his credentials, his experience, all that good stuff. And yeah, and so lastly, I just want to point out that he actually has over $100,000 earned on Upwork, and obviously the proposal that he started with is really terrible. You can see he has $100,000, almost 90 jobs, and almost 5,000 hours, or total hours. And so, like, this proposal is so bad, guys. Like, this is your competition. It's the competition has never been weaker. And so if you are considering getting on Upwork, I would heavily encourage you to do so. It's going to be the easiest way that you're going to add 6 figures in revenue to, it's going to be the easiest way that you'll be able to add 6 figures in revenue to your business in 2024. And so I would highly encourage you to do so. And again, if he's earned over $100,000 with this templated proposal, then you should be fairly confident that you can earn far more with a better proposal. And so that's all we've got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.